cast long shadows across my small vineyard as I checked the ripening grapes, testing their sugar content one careful row at a time. These weren't the vast mechanically harvested fields my family owned in Napa Valley. My 10 acres in a forgotten corner of Sonoma were tiny by comparison. But these vines held secrets that would soon shake the entire wine industry. Still playing farmer, Isabella? I didn't need to turn around to recognize my sister Victoria's voice, dripping with her usual condescension. The crunch of her expensive heels on the gravel path told me she wasn't alone. "What do you want, Victoria?" I kept working, checking another cluster of grapes. "Dad sent us to remind you about the harvest festival at the estate next weekend. Though I told him you probably wouldn't come, given how busy you are with your little hobby farm." Now I did turn, facing Victoria and my brother Anthony. They stood out absurdly among my vines in their designer clothes, looking every inch the wealthy wine industry executives they were. "Some of us actually work our own land," I said mildly, "instead of just managing it from a corner office." Anthony laughed. "Work? Is that what you call this experiment in failure? How many cases did you produce last year? 50? We do that in an hour." They had no idea that my experiment was about to revolutionize wine production, that my small batches were actually carefully controlled tests of techniques I'd spent years perfecting. "Quality over quantity," I replied, turning back to my vines. "Not that you'd understand the difference." "Dad's worried about you," Victoria said, making it sound like an accusation. 5 years out here, and what do you have to show for it? No distribution deals, no restaurant placements, just a few bottles sold at farmers markets. If they only knew about the offers already coming in from Europe, about the revolutionary aging process I developed that would change everything about how premium wines were made. "I'm doing fine," I said. "Send Dad my regards, but I'll be too busy with harvest to attend his party." "Too busy," Anthony snorted, "or too embarrassed to show up empty-handed again. Every year, all the major vintners bring their best wines to showcase." "What would you bring?" "Some homemade grape juice. I thought of the special vintage aging in my cellar, the one that would debut next month at the International Wine Competition in Paris. The one that would prove everything my family thought they knew about winemaking was wrong." "Just go," I sighed. "I have work to do." "Work?" Victoria's laugh was sharp. "Isabella, let's be honest. This isn't work, it's hiding. Running away because you couldn't handle real responsibility in the family business." That stung because it touched on the real reason I left Rossetti Wines 5 years ago. Not because I couldn't handle responsibility, but because I'd seen problems in their production methods that no one would acknowledge. "You're right about one thing," I said quietly. "I couldn't handle watching Dad cut corners and compromise quality just to increase profits. So I left to do things the right way." "Oh please," Anthony scoffed. "Our wines win awards every year. We're the largest producer in California." "Size isn't everything, brother. Sometimes the biggest empires have the shakiest foundations." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." I stripped off my work gloves. "Don't you have a party to plan? Some overpriced mediocre wine to oversell?" They left in a huff of offended dignity, their luxury SUV kicking up dust as it roared down my modest gravel driveway. I watched them go, thinking of all they didn't know. About the dangerous shortcuts our father had taken to maintain production levels during recent poor harvests. About the corners cut in aging and testing that would soon come to light. About the devastating evidence I'd gathered before leaving, proof that Rossetti Wines had been lying to consumers and regulators for years. My phone buzzed. A text from Marco, my partner in both life and winemaking. "Lab results are in. The new process works perfectly." I smiled, looking out over my small vineyard. While my family was busy mocking my hobby farm, I'd been revolutionizing how premium wines could be produced. My method would cut aging time in half while improving quality, something the industry had thought impossible. Another text. "Buyers from France and Italy confirmed for next week. They're very excited." Of course they were. My breakthrough would save premium vintners millions in aging costs. More importantly, it would expose the shortcuts some major producers, like Rossetti Wines, had been taking. Inside my modest farmhouse, I pulled up the latest financial reports on Rossetti Wines. To outsiders, they looked incredibly successful. Record profits, expanding market share, glowing reviews in all the major wine publications. But I knew where to look for the cracks. The increasing debt load, the suspicious patterns in their production numbers, the impossibly consistent quality ratings that defied the reality of recent poor harvests. Your father's on the warpath, Marco warned when he came in from the cellar. Victoria called him about your conversation. He's threatening to have your methods investigated for regulatory compliance. I had to laugh. Let him. My process is perfectly legal. His, on the other hand. Marco sat beside me, looking concerned. Are you sure you want to do this? They're still your family. Family? I shook my head. They stopped being family the day they chose profits over integrity. The day Dad told me I was naive for wanting to maintain quality standards. And now? Now they're just another corrupt corporation about to face the consequences of their choices. My phone buzzed again. An email from the International Wine Competition confirming my entry. In 1 month, I would unveil my revolutionary aging process to the world. And in doing so, I would expose every shortcut, every lie, every fraud that major producers like Rossetti had been committing. Isabella, Marco's voice was gentle. Your hands are shaking. I looked down, surprised to find he was right. Just thinking about what's coming, about their faces when they realize that the daughter they dismissed as a failure actually succeeded, that your hobby farm created something they couldn't, that everything they built is about to crumble. I corrected him. And that their little sister holds the hammer. Later that evening, as sunset painted my vines in gold, I walked the rows again. Each plant had been carefully tended by hand, not by machines. Each grape would be harvested at exactly the right moment, not according to some corporate schedule. My family thought this made me small-time, inefficient, a joke in the industry. They had no idea that my small production had allowed me to perfect techniques they couldn't match. That my attention to detail had revealed problems they'd been hiding for years. That my hobby farm was about to become the most important vineyard in California. My phone lit up with another call from Victoria. I let it go to voicemail, already knowing what she'd say. More mockery, more demands that I attend the harvest festival, more attempts to make me feel small and irrelevant. Let them mock. Let them dismiss me as the family failure, the dreamer who couldn't cut it in the real wine business. Let them enjoy their empire of lies for a few more weeks, because sometimes the smallest vineyards yield the most devastating harvests. And this year, my crop would change everything. I picked a single perfect grape, testing its sweetness. Almost ready, like my plans for bringing down Rossetti wines, timing would be everything. Should we send a response about the harvest festival? Marco asked from the porch. I smiled, thinking of the chaos that would erupt just before that prestigious event, of the scandal that would overshadow their carefully planned party. No need, I said quietly. They'll have much bigger problems to worry about by then. Sometimes revenge, like fine wine, is best served after proper aging. And I've been aging this revenge for 5 very patient years. The grand ballroom of the Paris Intercontinental was packed with the world's most prestigious vintners. Crystal glasses clinked as judges sampled entries in the international wine competition, their expressions carefully neutral as they swirled, sniffed, and sipped. I stood quietly in the corner, watching my father hold court at the Rossetti wines table. He was in his element, charming journalists and fellow vintners with practiced ease. Victoria and Anthony flanked him like royal hares, basking in their assumed success. They have no idea you're here, do they? Marco whispered. No. Our entry is under Vale Vista Vineyards. They don't even know that's my brand. My small production had allowed me to operate in relative obscurity. While Rossetti wines splashed their label across billboards and magazines, I built my reputation quietly among serious wine enthusiasts who valued quality over marketing. Your father's looking nervous, Marco observed. He was right. Despite Dad's smooth exterior, I could see tension in his shoulders. The competition's new authentication requirements, which I quietly helped develop, required detailed documentation of aging processes and production methods. Ms. Vale, a competition official approached. The judges are ready for your presentation. This was it, the moment I'd spent 5 years preparing for. I walked to the podium, aware of my family's sudden attention, their confusion as they recognized me, their growing alarm as I began explaining my revolutionary aging process. Traditional premium wine aging takes years, I began. But what if we could achieve the same results in half the time, while actually improving quality? The room grew silent. This was the holy grail of wine production, something everyone had thought impossible. Through careful manipulation of temperature, pressure, and oxygen levels, we've developed a process that accelerates aging while enhancing complexity. I nodded to Marco, who unveiled our demonstration setup. More importantly, this process is completely natural. No additives, no artificial manipulation, just science applied to traditional methods. The judges leaned forward, suddenly intensely interested, but I wasn't watching them. I was watching my father's face as he realized what this meant. If my process worked, it would expose every shortcut Rossetti wines had been taking, every chemical additive they'd used to fake proper aging, every lie they told about their traditional methods. The proof is in the tasting, I continued as assistants began pouring samples. This wine was aged for just 18 months using our new process. Compare it to traditionally aged premium wines and you'll find it matches or exceeds their quality. The judges sipped thoughtfully. Murmurs of appreciation filled the room. Then something remarkable happened. They started coming back for second tastes, third tastes, the kind of response that could make or break reputations in this industry. Impossible, Victoria declared loudly. She's lying about the aging time. It has to be artificial. Actually, I smiled. Everything is documented and verified by independent labs. Unlike some producers, we believe in complete transparency. My father's face went white. He knew what I was really saying. The head judge stood up. Ms. Vale, this is extraordinary. If verified, your process could revolutionize premium wine production. It's already verified, I replied. In fact, I've prepared detailed documentation for regulatory agencies, including, I paused for effect, a comprehensive comparison with current industry practices. Now my father was moving toward me, panic in his eyes, but it was too late. I'm particularly interested in how some major producers have been hiding artificial acceleration methods, I continued. Methods that would shock consumers if they knew. Stop this, my father hissed, reaching the podium. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, Dad, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've known since I left Rossetti Wines 5 years ago. Known about the chemicals, the fake aging reports, all of it. The room had gone deathly quiet. Everyone in the industry knew Rossetti Wines, and now they were all watching this drama unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the crowd. My process works because it's based on understanding how wine naturally ages. Unlike methods that use artificial additives to simulate aging, methods that some producers have been hiding for years. You're talking about Rossetti, someone said. Aren't you? I smiled. I'm talking about truth in winemaking, about maintaining standards, about not cutting corners just to increase profits. This is slander, Anthony shouted. We'll sue you. Please do, I replied calmly. I'd love to present my evidence in court. All the documentation I gathered before leaving. All the proof of regulatory violations. Everything. Victoria grabbed my arm. Why are you doing this? We're family. Family? I shook her off. Was it family when you mocked my small vineyard? When you called my work a joke? When you helped Dad hide his corrupt practices? The judges were conferring urgently. The media representatives were scribbling notes, and my father looked like a man watching his empire crumble. The chemicals were necessary, he said quietly. The market demanded consistent product. We had no choice. There's always a choice, I corrected him. I made mine 5 years ago. I chose quality over quantity, truth over profits, real winemaking over fake shortcuts. The head judge cleared his throat. In light of these allegations, we'll need to investigate all Rossetti entries, and I believe the regulatory agencies will want to. We have nothing to hide, my father declared, but his voice shook. Really? I pulled out my phone, pulling up documents. Should we discuss the secret additives? The falsified aging reports? The lab tests you buried? Hours later, after the chaos had subsided, I stood in my hotel room watching the story explode across wine industry news. Rossetti wine stock was plummeting. Distributors were canceling orders. Restaurants were pulling their bottles from wine lists. Your father's called 6 times, Marco said, holding up my phone. Let him call. He can talk to the regulators instead. My own phone was buzzing with different calls. Buyers wanting to license my aging process, journalists seeking interviews, investment offers pouring in. The judges want to give you their Special Innovation Award, Marco added. It's never gone to such a small producer before. I laughed at the irony, the hobby farmer, the family failure, the joke. The genius who revolutionized winemaking, he corrected. The one who chose integrity over easy profits. A knock at the door, Victoria, looking shattered. The board is meeting tomorrow, she said without preamble. They're voting to suspend Dad and force a sale of the company. And he won, okay? You've destroyed everything our family built. Are you happy now? I considered her question carefully. I didn't destroy anything, Victoria. Dad did that when he chose shortcuts over quality. When he decided profit margins were more important than integrity. Then help us, she pleaded. Your process could save the company. My process only works with proper methods, proper care, proper respect for the wine. Everything Rossetti Wines stopped caring about years ago. Please, he whispered. We're family. No, I said quietly. We stopped being family when you chose to be part of his corruption. When you mocked my small vineyard instead of seeing what I was really building. After she left, I stood at the window looking out over Paris. Somewhere across the city, my father was watching his empire collapse. Everything he'd built, everything he'd achieved through shortcuts and lies, was crumbling. And I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no joy, just a quiet certainty that justice had finally been served. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from a small vintners coalition. They wanted me to help develop new industry standards, real standards based on quality and integrity. What now? Marco asked softly. I thought of my small vineyard back home, of the vines I tended by hand while my family mocked my choices, of the patience and care that had led to this moment. Now we go home, I said. We have grapes to harvest, wine to make, the right way, and Rossetti Wines will serve as a reminder that sometimes the smallest vineyards yield the most powerful vintages, and that integrity, like fine wine, only gains value with time. The end.